Hello, I'm Tara Brabazon. I'm the Dean of Graduate Research at Flinders University. And welcome to vlog 169, the gig economy. And I should explain the state of my office, and I wasn't expecting this. I've just arrived in at work, and as some of my wonderful students may know, when I'm recording this video, I'm actually getting married tomorrow. And so I arrived at work today to simply record the vlog on Friday mornings like I do, and my entire office is covered in flowers and streamers and balloons, and I've sort of cleared some of the wreckage that used to be my office to create space to do the vlog. But thank you to my wonderful staff. I often say in these vlogs that I have the best group, the best community of staff anyone could ever hope to work with in the Office of Graduate Research, and they care for me deeply. And this office tells you something about the contemporary higher education workplace at its very best. But what we're going to talk about in the vlog today is the gig economy, which in many ways is some of what we're seeing of the worst of a workplace. The gig economy is a cliche. It is a phrase that shows you sort of down with the young people. But why we've put the gig economy in our economy series is because there is some content there. It is a proxy for a change in what is happening in international higher education. So it is important that we talk about it. It is meaningful. It is relevant. The gig economy refers to independent contract or part-time employment. This mode of employment has been enabled through changes to technology. So if you like, digitization plus freelance work equals the gig economy. And what we're finding is, those interfaces may be Skype, it may be Dropbox. It's the capacity to move files, move ideas through space and time at ease. Now, the gig economy, think about that word gig. For those of us that used to work in the music industry, we know what a gig is. So you're a band, you're doing a gig, you're paid for doing that gig in a pub. You're a DJ, you do a gig, you're paid for doing that particular 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 hour block in a club. And still to this day, when I'm doing a public speaking event, and a lot of you have heard me say this, when I'm doing that event, so I'm being paid to go and deliver a talk, I still refer to that as a gig. So when you go and deliver a speech in some form, finite period of time for which you are paid to deliver a service, the gig economy. So a singular event for which you are paid is a gig. And what you're trying to do to render it a gig economy is string together those singular events so that you can make a living. Other descriptions of the gig economy that particularly emerged in the early to mid 2000s were the sharing economy. Airbnb is a great example of that, and also the collaborative economy, particularly coming from that early to mid period of Web 2.0, the read-write web, the collaborative economy. Now, the phrase the gig economy does apply very strongly to academics. The adjunct academy, of which a lot of PhD students are members, casualised academics, short-term contracts, they're all described as part of the gig economy. And that's offered in comparison to tenured, permanent or tenure track staff. Now, universities enact the gig economy, the adjunct, the part-time, the contract workforce, for many reasons. It adds flexibility to our teaching schedules, particularly the teaching of undergraduate students, but it's also done for economic reasons. Remember, I was a former head of school. My last couple of jobs before this were as a head of school. And I can tell you, yes, absolutely, when I have teaching to do in a semester, I hire someone to deliver that teaching for that semester, and the contract concludes the day after the semester finishes. And that is the gig economy. It saves me money as a head of school, it saves the university money, it saves the Australian taxpayer money. You are delivering a service, teaching undergraduates for which you are paid. The benefits of the gig economy to workers, though, much more ambivalent, but they do certainly exist. And a lot of those benefits to you as a worker are linked in with that other word and phrase that I really have some problems with, which is the work and life balance. So I'm a member of the gig economy. I do gigs, casualised work, because I have a work and life balance. Now, that phrase does continue to worry me, but what the phrase does capture, I think, is there are a large number of people in our culture, in our society, that require flexibility in their working time. And that's really what the gig economy does. It allows you to move the work around your schedule. So work through other responsibilities that might be childcare responsibilities, or might indeed be caring responsibilities for a parent, or indeed for some generations involved in our PhD program, you've got both. You've got the generational squeeze. So this means through the gig economy that work can be done anywhere, and that is anywhere with an internet connection. That is enabling for people with multiple responsibilities, and that's not a doubt. That's a great advantage of the gig economy. And look, the other advantage probably is you can pay for your passion. So you have a passion in life that you do that maybe at this juncture is not paying for you. So for example, you are a writer and the writing gig is not quite producing the money that you need to live. So you do editing, freelance editing responsibilities to pay the bills for your passion for writing until that first fabulous novel is created. But we also have to remember, I think, that that gig that you're doing to pay for your passion might also be driving an Uber. So it's lovely if they're synergetic and the activities and the practices are together. Often it is, I do this work, which I don't enjoy very much, to pay for this component of my life that I do enjoy, but is not making money at this point. More importantly, and why it is useful to PhD students, is the gig economy allows you to very quickly add lines to your CV. So when you do all these different gigs in succession, you add them all to the CV, and very quickly as a PhD student, you start to build up your responsibilities, your accountabilities, what you've done, so an employer can see the scale and scope of what you can do. But the disadvantages are really, really clear. Unsteady, unstable work, unsteady, unstable pay, no health conditions, no sick leave, and you require incredible self-discipline. So what I mean by that is if you've got a boss, a scary boss like the Dean of Graduate Research, if you've got, as you can see, my staff take me incredibly seriously, but if you do have a boss, then our job as a boss is to get people organised and get work completed and accountabilities, key performance indicators and so forth. If you haven't got a boss and you're only paid by the completion of a task, you have to have enough self-discipline to complete that task. The gig economy also has some very unfortunate relationships with 0-hour contracts. We're not really hearing that phrase much in Australia. In the UK we do a lot. A 0-hour contract is where you sign with an employer a contract that promises 0 hours, promises no hours, but gives the employer flexibility to add the hours as they see fit. So you're contracted, but without any guarantee of hours. 0-hour contracts. So the gig economy pays workers by the piece. It is piecework. The world right now has a glut of well-qualified, clever, hard-working people like you. And so therefore all of us, every single one of us, has to make a living when we can. And these short-term contract positions are a way to do this. And in 2018, the US Bureau of Labor Statistics reported that, and hang on to yourself, 55 million people in the United States are gig workers. That's 35% of the US workforce, and further they report that that number was projected to jump to 43% of the workforce by 2020. In the UK, the number is lower because I think it's calculated differently, to be honest with you, but 15% of the workforce are gig workers, which means 5 million people in the gig economy. So this is a future for work. It may also be the future for work. And why we need to look at the gig economy carefully and honestly is that it lacks security, it often has low pay and very few or no benefits. This is reality. This is reality. And I remember at a recent completion seminar, hi Todd, Todd and I had one of our moments, one of our conversations about the reality of working in higher education and working in universities. And he very much wanted me to do sessions like this in the vlog. And of course, that's why in some ways we're doing this one today. And part of my role as a dean is to tell you the truth. And often it is a hard truth. You know, one of my research areas is the higher education workforce. So every now and again, don't be surprised if that expertise in my research life comes into the professional conversations that we're having. Because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get you ready. I'm trying to get me ready. I'm trying to get all of us ready for the future of work. And this is the future of work that the previous generation of academics would never have imagined. So we've got to get right for this. We're going to get ready for this. This is our present. This is our future. But why you matter, why the PhD student matters to the gig economy is because you are ideally situated and placed to benefit from it. Because you are a self-starter, you are independent. And if you think about it, what the gig economy is about is an employer needs to hire the best person they can find who can start a job in 1 minute, no training, no professional development, no orientation. This task needs to be completed. I need to grab somebody who can complete that task and go from zero to hero really quickly. That would be a PhD student. So you are able to manage the emotional up and downs, you are self-starters. You also manage variability very well, I would argue. For me, this is the great transferable skill of a PhD. You manage all sorts of weird stuff. Variability of roles and peoples and practices and behaviours and softwares and interfaces. And also you're comfortable with remote working, different types of working. So you are ideally placed to benefit from the gig economy. This is a produce or perish environment. You've got to produce or else you won't get paid. And it is a capacity to see what a client, and I'm using that word intentionally, a client, a transitory employer needs. So what does this client require of you? And you must deliver on that requirement. Perhaps most poignantly, the gig economy, I think, radically redefines what we all think of as success. That's the meta pointer of the vlog today, and something that does trouble me a lot. Most of us have an imagining of what our life in higher education, our life in universities would be like. Most of us have that. And you know, my life really has been based on, for the last 20, 30 years, trying to reimagine the project of a university. But that imagining has very little to do with the reality of a contemporary university. We often think, oh look, university life is about flexibility, flexibility of time, time to think, time to create. It's not that kind of workplace. And I've worked in university since 1991. And what I can tell you is, through my life, it's never been that type of workplace. You have to make money. You have to make a living. And to fulfill that goal, to make that living, in the gig economy, you're going to have to fulfill the needs of others. So you're going to lose autonomy, you're going to lose creativity, and that whole blue sky thinking thing, well, yeah, good luck with that. The advantage of the gig economy to you is it's no longer a 9 to 5 deal. You are flexible, you are autonomous, you can work from home, you can have child caring responsibilities, you can look after ailing parents. But the advantage to the companies, to the corporations, to the clients is also clear. It is a result-oriented economy. So you are creating a workforce that is responsive to change. And so what's happening with business now, and we're seeing it all over the world in all sectors, is businesses now have a small core of permanent workers and a very, very large pool of gig economy workers. So they can be flexible in who they pay, bring on people for the busy times and let them go when the work is not there. And also noting that the gig economy does not have sick leave, does not have annual leave. So in this environment, you are called alternative workers, the alternative workplace. You choose. But my argument always is you are choosing in an environment, a working environment, where there are very few choices. It's about the short term, and it's about a research and result driven environment. It's about the end game. We need somebody to do this, and your goal is to deliver that, not much else. It provides money for you, and that's incredibly important. That's part of what my job is to make sure you can make a living, and that's important. It provides you with work. But I also want you aware of the problems and the challenges that are emerging as more and more of our economy is geared in this way. And the costs to your life are very high. Getting a mortgage will be incredibly difficult. It's very hard to plan your life in terms of relationships and kids and so forth. And don't get sick. Don't get sick. But you can earn a living. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the gig economy. So on the day before my wedding, in this truly wonderful weird office, I would have showed the Dalek too. The weird stuff is obviously out of camera, but the whole office is done up like this. So my staff are remarkable. They're not in the gig economy. We are a permanent staff, and we are a team together who care for you, which has profound advantages as well. But I wish you all on this very special day and this very special weekend, love, light and peace. Tea out.